Can you imagine yourself living on Mars? Because NASA isn't slowing down on its path to discovering more about life in outer space, the company just shared a plan for exploring deep space from the moon to Mars, and this might make it possible for all of us to move out of Earth. So in this video, we're going to be talking about NASA's objectives and plans to guide the moon to Mars space exploration. First off, let's talk about NASA's ultimate goal. NASA's Artemis project has a goal of exploring more of the moon than ever before. Now that Artemis 1 is ready to go, the agency wants to send people back to the moon and set up a regular schedule of missions, including one of the south polar of the moon. These missions set up long-term presence that'll help with future exploration of Mars and other faraway places. By making use of emerging technologies, they have plans to discover more of the moon's surface than ever before. Their main goal for going back to the moon is to learn more about science, help the economy, and inspire the Artemis generation. A new group of explorers. After that, they plan on establishing a global partnership and exploring interstellar space for the benefit of everyone while keeping the US at the top of exploration. They'll build the Gateway in lunar orbit and Artemis base camp on the moon's surface, and their robots and astronauts will be able to explore more and do more science than ever before because of these things. Not just this, but they'll also be working with commercial and international partners to make the moon's first permanent home and use what they've learned on and around the moon to take the next big step, sending the first astronauts to Mars. Next up, a little about the company's initial steps towards reaching this goal. Senior leaders at NASA started working on the goals in November 2021. They did this in coordination with an agency called Cross-Directorate Federated Board, whose goal is to make sure that NASA's focus is aligned with the same strategic goals and directions for all of its mission directorates. NASA will be able to look for ways so that the goals for the United States and other countries for exploring the moon and Mars match up, as well as other possible ways to work together. In May 2022, the public and NASA employees were given a draft of the high-level goals and asked to provide feedback by June. NASA got more than 5,000 suggestions, which led to many ideas being changed and some new goals being added. NASA held workshops for industry and international partnerships to help refine and talk about the goals and find any gaps. Jim Free, NASA's Associate Administrator for the Exploration System Development Mission Directorate, which ran the objective team and is ultimately in charge of the agency's moon to Mars architecture, claimed that they were helping to judge humanity's global move into deep space. The goals were to make sure the long-term plan for exploring the solar system can keep its focus even as politics and fundings change. They'll help give a clear direction as new technologies, vehicles, and parts are made over the next few years and are meant to be attainable. Moving on to other follow-up, Mars campaign, the Artemis 1 mission on the launch pad, but it won't have any people aboard. According to NASA, the Artemis campaign shows the skills and operations that are needed for science and exploration missions in deep space safely on the moon. This closely related to planning for missions to Mars. Science and exploration technology goals are the most important parts of the Artemis missions. After a successful launch of Artemis 1 later this month, NASA plans to send the first humans back to the moon on Artemis 2 mission no sooner than 2024, and on the Artemis 3 mission no sooner than 2025. Parts of Artemis will be used by NASA to test systems and ideas for the trip to and from Mars. By using the moon as a testbed, the next mission to Mars will stay linked to the agency's long-term presence on the moon surface. Kurt Vogel, who worked in the office of the NASA administrator and is in charge of space architecture, stated in the past, they've built elements and capabilities first to support the campaign. The community's ideas have proven to be very helpful, and now they're ready to move on to the next steps in planning architecture. Finally, let's talk about NASA's full list of 63 objectives. NASA released a new version of the Moon on Mars goal on Tuesday, 20th September. These goals plan on how to explore and how it will be done over the solar system. These guideposts in the agency's Moon to Mars exploration plan will help shape NASA's investments, as well as those of its industry and international partners towards the moon and beyond, starting with 50 draft goals made by an agency leader from all our mission directorates. Earlier this year, NASA asked its employees, the public, industry, and the agency's international partners for feedback. They then held 2 workshops with industry and international partners to talk more about the goals. The revised 63 final objectives show that NASA and its partners now have a better idea of how to make a plan for long-term human presence and exploration all over the solar system. They cover 4 main areas: science, transportation, and living, the infrastructure of the moon and Mars, and the operations. The agency also added a set of recurring tenets to address themes that were present in many of the goals. NASA's Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy reported that they wanted to devise a plan that'll last, and so through a collaborative process, they've come up with a core set of clear goals with their partners. She added that the goals were both realistic and aspirational and have been thought of caring about how they can help us shape the future together. Now for some other related news. First off, NASA's InSight waits out a storm of dust. As a dust storm the size of a continent swirls over Mars' southern hemisphere, the solar panels on NASA's InSight mission, which is set to end soon, have been putting out less power. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter first saw the storm on September 21st, 2022. It's about 2,175 miles from InSight and had little effect on the lander at first. The mission keeps a close eye on the lander's power level, which has been steadily growing down as dust builds up on its solar panels. By October 3rd, the storm has grown big enough and was throwing up so much dust that the dusty haze in the atmosphere around InSight had grown nearly 40%. The lander's energy dropped from 425 watts an hour per Martian day to just 275 watts an hour per Sol. Because it was getting less sunlight, the team thought that InSight's mission would end between late October of this year and January of 2023. This was based on estimates of how much the dust on the solar panels would cut down on the amount of power it could take. But the lander's already finished its main mission and is getting close to the end of its extended mission. Up next, we have the majestic cosmic bubble nebula, which is 4 million years old. People all over the world were amused by NASA's latest view from deep space. It posted a picture of the blue bubble nebula on Instagram on Sunday, October 9th, 2022. The picture was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, which had been in use for 32 years. The Hubble Wide Field Camera 3 from NASA can see the nebula in visible light, which shows off its beautiful colors. Hydrogen is green, oxygen is blue, and nitrogen is red. The striking picture shows the star bubble, a cosmic bubble wrapped in the constellation Cassiopeia. That is 7,000 light years from our planet. NASA wrote that the star in the nebula is 45 times bigger than our sun. It has existed for more than 4 million years and will turn into a supernova in 10 to 20 million. Finally, the small Capstone moon probe from NASA's finally stopped rolling around in space. The Capstone probe that NASA sent to the moon is getting easier to control. The Capstone spacecraft, which is about the size of a microwave oven, has been in safe mode since an engine fire on September 8th. It finally stopped tumbling in cislunar space after a command from ground control. According to NASA, the 55-pound spacecraft first got into trouble because of a valve-related issue in one of the spacecraft's 8 thrusters. Adding to that, one of the thrusters was partially open and making the spacecraft spin. The team is now making more progress on their plan to recover the CubeSat before it expected to land on the moon on November 13th. NASA also said the spacecraft remains on track to occupy and study a lunar near rectilinear halo orbit to test its stability before Getaway arrives in a few years. But that's a wrap for this video, my friends. How do you feel finding out after NASA's objectives for going deeper into space? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more just like it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.